Michael K. Williams joins us now. Thank you so much. Congratulations on the well-deserved NAACP Image nomination for Lovecraft Country. That show, let me tell you, kept me up at night like the hater in my head sometimes.
That show kept all of us up at night. But I just want to say thank you, first of all, Tamron, for having me here today. And I just got to give a special shout out to BB and CC Winans, man. That song, It'll Be All Over. That song got me through a lot of rough nights also. I just wanted to just put that out there, man. Thank
Absolutely.
you for
And every time I think about it,
Thank
I think of many nights I would go to bed crying and I would think of that song, that it'll be all over in the morning. It's going to be okay. And you've had to tell yourself that on many levels in your life. How have you, first of all, when did you address the hater in your head, that critic that was keeping you from some of the things that are happening now?
I really just started addressing that shortly after the production had ended of Lovecraft Country. To be frank, I just I just started therapy, and really taking that seriously and starting to unpack, like you said, the critic in my head and how that has affected my actions, my responses to certain situations, my relationships. So it's a very new process for me.
You've been open in the past about your personal battle with substance abuse and how it affected you at different points in your life. And you so beautifully talk about that it is not just a snap thing. It's a journey. Recovery is a journey. And many times people will read a story about a 30-day rehab and life suddenly changes for that person. And it doesn't work like that. It is an ongoing battle. For you, doing this film that taps into substance abuse and the exploitation of people who are trying to find help, how did that impact your ability to look inside?
Well, Body Brokers, quite frankly, made me sick to my stomach. When I was ignorant to the narrative and the subject of what this movie was addressing. And I remember personally, one of those many nights when I was crying myself to sleep listening to BB and CC Winans, I would see these commercials about the these elaborate, beautiful recovery centers. Most of them was in Malibu, and I would say, man, if I could get there, maybe I could just get my life together. And to think that was never really that was never the intent that for them and ever. I don't know they ever really. I'm quite sure there are people there that care. It's just the capitalism aspect of that goes into that. I don't think that ever was any good. I think that was always there.
Yeah, and that's what the movie explores is we talk about the amount of profit that people make selling drugs, but there is money also in the rehab process as well, where people exploit folks trying to get help. You said something about when you have relapse and others relapse, it happens, or the process of relapsing happens well before you use the drug or alcohol again. The pieces start to fall apart well before the relapse. What do you mean by that?
With Wood, we see a perfect example of that. A lot of people often think that when a person puts down the drug or the alcohol, that all the problems go away. That couldn't be further from the truth. Drugs and alcohol are not the problems; they're merely symptoms of the problem. And once those things go away, the real work begins. Working on all the character defects, the moral compass, the skewed moral compass. Those are things that need to be addressed. Those are the reasons why we got high in the first place and our inability to deal with life on life's terms.
Yeah.
So for me, for instance, when The Wire was coming to an end, I had no legs to stand on. I had stopped doing the work on myself, the shutting down the inner critic in my head. And, I went from being a shy, dark-skinned kid in the hood who was corny to all of a sudden, everyone is just, yo, man, I love you.
Right.
And I was like, the only small problem was they were calling me Omar and not Michael. And I was like, yeah, Omar, Michael, who gives a damn? It's just the name, right?
Right.
And that was the beginnings of me losing myself, losing my identity, and in my work, and that came back to haunt me drastically toward the end. I had no legs to stand on when that show ended. because I was forced to go back and look in the mirror, and that was who wants
And
to
look
do
at
that,
who
right?
you had to go back to the mirror and ask yourself who you are. Michael, it's so interesting. This you have this pivotal moment that happened in your life that involved then Senator Barack Obama on the campaign trail. It was 2008. And that's actually when I just interviewed him and met him as well. I'm living in Chicago and he's got this book and the audacity of hope and all these things. And you said that I just didn't feel worthy of meeting this man. You're in the room, you're there for a reason, but you didn't feel worthy. Why?
One of the inner critics in my head had always told me that my voice didn't matter. Um, I had no power. No one cares. Even as even on the celebrity stage, during the wire and all of those things, I still felt unseen and unheard, and more importantly, I felt that my voice did not matter. And when then Senator Obama mentioned that The Wire was his favorite show and
Ah,
that Omar was his favorite character, it it exposed me. I felt very very naked, and I felt the impact of my ignorance actually, and I was like, well, how does the future president of the free world see me? What makes him watch The Wire? And more importantly, how come I don't know who he is? How come I don't know what he's about? At that point in my life, I was in my 30s, and I'd only voted once, and that was at gunpoint by my mother to go down and vote for Clinton. So I was clueless to how this whole thing works, how the system works, and when then Senator Obama shouted me out, something spoke to me inside. That was the
yeah.
beginning of me, I guess, starting to break down that critic in my head, and something said, well, Michael, if this man has taken the time to watch The Wire and see the ills in my community, why don't you get to know him and what he's about and what he stands for? And for me, that wasn't about getting his cell phone number, or
Yeah.
then I got Obama on speed dial. That wasn't my path. My path was to listen to him.
Yeah.
Like, one of the first things I learned from him is that real change happens on a local level. For someone like me, I'm more powerful, getting in the face of my local community leaders and holding them accountable and finding out what they're about,
Yeah.
getting involved with the youth in my community and find out what's ailing them,
Right.
and starting that narrative. And I got that
But
from
part of your power, in
listening to
addition to that,
Obama.
because you mentioned young people, Michael, is the power of being vulnerable. We're talking about the hater in your head. And you said in this interview, and I get choked up reading it, it was in Men's Health, and you said, I spent a lot of time of my younger years not feeling beautiful. But when I look back at my pictures now as a kid, I'm like, damn, you were actually beautiful. Um, you weren't able to see what others were seeing because the world will beat you down and it will make you feel, as you said, this little brown skinned kid, kind of corny, your words, um, was beautiful. And I think that the power of what Obama did for you, you're doing for kids everywhere with showing this vulnerability. I know that you said you're in therapy. I'm in therapy. I was there yesterday on Zoom. But you also bike, something else we have in common. Al Roker convinced me to buy a bike like 5 years ago, and I would get a
Well,
car to work, and then I would ride the bike home because it was too dark for me to ride. But I ride on New York City streets, and it just allows you to escape some of the pressure. What has it done for you to be in therapy and also bike?
um, cycling really helped save my life at the beginning of this pandemic. I got slipped into a slight depression. I didn't realize how much I was always on the go, working, 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 working. And when I was forced to sit down, I had another, the reckoning. Like, oh boy, I got to deal with me again.
Yeah.
I got to find a way to occupy my time and my space, because for me, an idle mind is truly the devil's workshop.
Mm.
So yeah, I had some good friends, man, and they were like, "Come on, Mike, come bike riding with us." And a good friend of mine, I call him my little brother, actually, Eddie Morales. He made these bikes, and I would never take the time. He always said, "Big bro, I got a bike for you,"
Right.
and I never took the time to go get it. And I said, I'm gonna get my bike for my little brother. And we rode around the city. At one point, we got so ambitious. We
Yeah.
rode from Brooklyn all the way to New Jersey.
Oh, well, listen, you
You
are
know,
too ambitious for me. I'm going a couple of blocks. That's miles. For people who are watching who aren't in New York, that is, you would find Tamron Hall on the side of the road with her bike because I wouldn't make it home. I would be calling people to pick me up. Well, I'm so happy you found cycling as a way to release. A lot of people are into it now, but more than that, it's just an honor to speak with someone who is so real in a world that teaches us to filter and hide. You expose the truth. So I'm happy to be able to spend this time with you. And congratulations on all this well-deserved success.
thank you, thank you,
Of
Tamron.
course, of
Thank you for
course.
what you do.
Thank you. All right, so Michael's movie, before I start crying some more, Body Brokers. Brilliant film, another brilliant performance from him. It's available now on video on demand and digital.